Bez, have you recovered from the other day?
I'm not over it.
No, I'm not over it. We had
It was horrible.
We had a very strange and traumatic experience in the house the other day, and it's still in my head. I'm still thinking
I think it
about
might be life-changing. Is that over-exaggerated?
It might be a bit over-exaggerated. I do feel like it's probably the scariest thing that's ever happened in my house.
Which is lucky.
Which is very lucky. But we're only 26, so I'm sure we might have robberies in the future. We might have, terrible things. So far, this is the scariest thing that happened in the house. So we had some...
Now, this is pathetic. This is not... Well, it was scary to us.
We had some intruders.
Intruders in the house.
So let's set the scene. So I was having my breakfast, right? I had dinosaur-shaped cereal, because I'm an adult. And I finished my cereal and I said, oh... lover of mine, I'm going to go to the shower now. And I went upstairs.
I think you're going to the toilet.
Probably. And I went upstairs and I opened the bathroom door and then I felt what I thought was like a huge moth. I thought it was a moth. So I didn't flinch because I'm not scared of moths. You were really scared of moths.
I'm scared of, just to set the scene, yeah. I'm scared of flappy things like moths, butterflies, birds, bats, uncontrollable... movement.
Yeah, the idea that something could flap in your face. So I opened the bathroom door and a huge moth flew right past my face and it skimmed. I literally felt the wing on my ear. Like it went so
horrible.
And I didn't say anything because I thought, oh, it's just a huge moth. And then I looked and right opposite the bathroom is my office. So it's down the corridor. And it flew right through to the office and it went doof on the window.
Yeah, it did like a thud.
And
bang.
I heard a huge thud on the window and I thought, that moth is huge because that was such a significant thud. And in my head I was like, oh, I'm going to have to get this dead moth.
Like a moth had flown into your window.
And hit the window and I thought it's going to be a dead moth. I look into the office down the corridor and I see what had flown into the window was a bird, right? A bird. And it had landed on my keyboard and was kind of twitching like this. And I thought, oh, and my brain just went to freeze.
Because you're scared of dead animals.
I'm terrified of dead animals. And I just don't like the idea of holding an animal. So my brain went, oh my goodness. And then I just screamed. And it was kind of like getting itself back together. It wasn't dead.
I don't think you screamed. I think you just went, I heard you say...
I went, oh my God! Oh no, my God! Ah! Like that. I wasn't really saying anything. And it was alive and it was kind of brushing itself off. And I went, there's a bird! Like that. And it was so alien to see this bird in my office.
Yeah.
And my whole brain was just racing with what are you going to do? They're so hard to get out of the house. How are you supposed to get them out?
Are they hard? Is that an infamous thing?
Well, I think they're hard because they just go where they want and they're so hard to catch and it's... Ooh.
I remember my friend...
And you don't want to damage the wing.
had a budgie.
Yeah.
And it was in a cage.
Yeah.
But then somehow the budgie got out once. I remember I was maybe 8 years old and it was flying around the living room. It was scary. But it wasn't as scary as this.
Because it continues. So I run downstairs. You are awful with flappy. This is your worst nightmare probably because you hate flappy things, you hate birds, and the idea of one being in the house... Worst nightmare.
Disgusting.
So I come downstairs to you with fear in your eyes and I'm just like, there's a bird. And you're like, what? And we literally looked at each other in hysterics like, what do we do? What do we do? I think we said that 700 times.
We were stuck, yeah. What do you do?
What do you do? And obviously all the adults and the people who aren't children like us are listening to this right now and saying, you just go in there, you open the window and you get a tea towel and you sort of guide it out. And that's what would be the logical thing, but I could not bring myself to go upstairs.
So then we were downstairs for about 10 minutes.
Just kind of planning. And we kept hearing
our students, we both had lessons coming up in 10, 15 minutes. Yeah. So we cancelled with our students, but for a ridiculous reason. Very apologetic, of course. And then we landed on the idea of you going up.
Well, obviously, because you would just...
I would because you're scared of dead animals. So the equivalent would be if I asked you, if I asked you, can you go and pick up this dead mouse or something?
Yeah, no, 100%.
So of course.
But we kept the worst
insert picture of Laura here.
No, that's not yet. Oh yeah, it might be.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Hold on. I need to add more context. We kept hearing it repeatedly whack itself against the window, and we were like, it's going to kill itself. Oh, so you kept putting it in my head going, it's going to die, it's going to die. That was stressing me out, because I was like, well, we're on I can't take my time here, I've got to go now. It's like time sensitive.
One of my worries was that it was going to die, but it wouldn't die cleanly. So it would die and just be flapping around, you know, kind of in pain. Horrible.
So we were on a time limit. There was like a ticking clock here. Because it was only, I'll insert a picture of what kind of bird it was, which makes us look ridiculous, because it's tiny.
It was about the size, it's about the height of this mug.
It wasn't like a huge pigeon or like an eagle, but it was scary. So I then decided, okay. I was like psyching myself up, and I said, I can do it, but I don't want it to touch my skin. So I tried to cover my skin as much as possible. So I, like this, put my hood up, face mask on, gardening gloves, and I got I started with a pillow, but then I got a tray, like a food tray, to be a shield. So I walked up the stairs with it covering me like this, because I thought if it flaps, it won't go into my face. Yeah. And then I turned the corner. It gets worse, guys. I turned the corner to the office. There were two.
Two birds.
Two birds. And I just went, there's two!
And what are the chances? What are the chances? Because I would say it's a lot. I would say it's a 1 in a million that one person will have a bird in their house in their life.
I don't think it's as rare as you think, but it is extremely rare to have two.
Two at the same time.
And especially because the window they flew in from was only open about that big.
Yeah.
Like it was about 7 centimetres, 6 centimetres.
Yeah, maybe that.
It wasn't big at all. So, but two birds had to have squeezed themselves into... Sorry, just checking the time, I'm so bored. Had to squeeze themselves into the window. So the fact that two... My theory is one of them got in and was stressed out and started chirping, and its lady friend or its boyfriend decided to come in and help it.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah,
but
maybe.
either or, we've now got two birds floating around the office.
And you've got a picture of Sean Connery in your office, and the birds were sitting on the top of the picture of Sean Connery.
And it was insane, because now it's not a case of, I'm just going to go in there, there's one bird, make sure that there's two now. So I just ran back downstairs.
And they were flying, and we saw them flying around.
And I just ran back downstairs, I was like, what do we do? There's two birds. So the chances of one of them killing themselves is now doubled, because there's two. And so we thought, let's go outside and look and see if we can see them through the window.
And it was so weird to look into your house and see
surreal.
Two little birds
sat on my window ledge like this. I'm like, get out of my house! What are you doing in my house?
Crazy.
They just do, and then they'd whack into the. That was the thing that I hated, was them keep throwing themselves into the window. I hated that so much, because I was like, they're gonna die on my watch because I'm not brave enough to go and open the window. So we literally just were. I nearly cried.
I was stumped.
I was so stressed. We were like, what are we supposed to do? Then I saw a van parked outside the neighbour's house, and I thought, anyone who drives a van and has a normal serious job like this will know how to deal with this.
Why is that the assumption?
Because we are absolutely useless. I am a useless human being. We can sit down and we can teach people English, but when it comes to practical things like there's two birds in a house, we are totally useless. So we knocked on the door, and there was a man who was doing painting for the house next door, and I said, I'm really sorry, we've got two blue tits in our house. Can you come? And he went, yeah, I'll be round in a second. No issue. He was like, whatever. He went upstairs. I heard him in the office going, hello, hi, like so nice to them. And we were
so
just like,
weird.
Oh. And then he just grabbed a tea towel and just gently picked them up and just released them like it was nothing. But they pooed everywhere. They pooed on my chair. They pooed on our important documents to buy a house.
Yeah, that's the nightmare.
Which I'm still going to send off because it just looks like coffee.
Does it?
It's only a tiny bit. I mean, they won't know. But yeah, they pooed everywhere, and it was just traumatizing. My heart has never beat so fast. It was literally pumping.
Wow. Well, you're lucky then. If that's the most traumatizing thing that's ever happened to you, is two friendly birds have been in your office. Then that is lucky.
I know, but that was just insane, wasn't it? We couldn't believe it. Two.
I do think about that every 20 minutes still now, and that was 3 days ago.
I will never get over the sight of when I turned the corner and just saw that thing on my keyboard going like this, like sort of fluttering, and I was like, the realization hitting me of, that's a bird.
I remember my mum, because we had out in our house growing up like a bathroom.
That's good.
A
We
toilet
had that,
outside. What did you
but-
call it? An outhouse? A
Yeah,
toilet
toilet
outside.
outside, yeah.
We had a toilet inside,
Well
but it
done.
was it's like a kind of an.
It was there from the olden days, and it had just stayed there.
Yeah. I believe that people had toilets outside because there was no plumbing inside at the time. But anyway, so yeah. And so there was an outside toilet, and I remember I went for a wee or a poo, I don't know, when I was maybe 10, 11 years old, maybe older, and there was maybe I'm misremembering, but I believe it was a crow that was like drowned in the toilet.
That's the stuff of nightmares, that.
Yeah, and it was just in... Oh.
That's like a Stephen King
I'll have to ask my mum if she'd remember. But, yeah, it was horrible. It was horrible.
Yeah, awful. But, that would be a you job, though. If there's anything dead, it's a you job. I'm not touching it. But it just happened to be that this job was a job that you could never do because you're terrified, and a job that I just wasn't brave enough to do. It's not like I'm scared of birds. I think I'm more scared of birds now. I genuinely think that will be an experience that will...
Like now, if you're outside and there was a bird, would you be a little bit more...
a little bit more... Because it will just remind me, we're terrified of opening that window now. I've only opened it like a slither.
Yeah, which is weird.
Because there's no way I want that bird coming in.
So you're scared of dead animals. So have you... And you're scared of stepping on a dead animal. If you're walking and then you hear a squelch...
That would traumatise... I'd faint, I think.
Yeah, I think I would faint if I was stuck in that room with those birds. So
That's such a funny sight, by the way. Imagine you going in there to face your fears,
and then
2 birds flying around, and you're just...
It's like Looney Tunes with like the 2 birds flying around your head.
And it's like, what's happened here? There were 2 tiny little blue tits in the...
They're outside. I can see birds outside the window now. Horrible things. No, they're lovely things. We need them.
They're lovely when they're in the place they belong. I think it's just it was the contrast of you shouldn't be in here, and that just the chaos of it, and they were causing chaos by flapping around. That I didn't like because it was just chaotic.
I felt a bit sick afterwards. Yeah. So have you ever stepped on a dead animal? So where does that fear come from?
No, I think I nearly have. I do remember walking home from school and there being something, and I nearly did, and I remember thinking that would be awful if that happened. So I'm okay looking at pictures of dead animals. Not that I do regularly, it's not like a hobby. But if I think there's a fear that I could step on them, I would.
It's a little bit more of a thing for me now. Now that you've mentioned it, I understand. Oh gosh, yeah, that would not be nice.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But it's so funny because I've been telling all my students about this bird fiasco, Birdgate as I'll call it, and all of them, like these 7-year-old kids... Sorry, am I squeaking?
No, I'm just worried about this cable, your arms on the cable.
Yeah, I'll be alright. If it's not, I'm sure we'll find out. But all these kids that I teach, I tell them about the bird, and they'll be like these 7-year-old kids going, that's fine. Why? I wouldn't be scared. Why were you scared? I was like, you're talking a big game.
Girl I taught, she just went, oh, don't be silly.
Ridiculous.
Don't be silly, she said. Don't be daft.
All right, well, okay. Well, I'd love to see it. If you've got 2 birds in your room, I'd love to see you go in there. I'd love to see it. People think that... And then everyone I've told has then said... I think I'd be okay. I think I'd be able to go in there, open the window. But then those people, it's never happened to them.
They can walk the walk.
Yeah.
Oh, no, they can talk the talk, but can they walk the walk?
And I say to them, oh, have you ever had a bird in your house? They go, no. I'm like, Because I would have said that. If you'd have asked me before on this podcast, if you'd have said, hey, Laura, if a bird flew into the house, what would you do? I would be telling you, I think I could go in and open the window. But when it's there and I'm and they can see them in that room.
The reality of it.
I just couldn't walk in the room. I couldn't bring myself to step through the threshold. It was... really stressing me out. That's what did it. Ooh,
yeah. Well, today, Laura, I mean, we've spent about half the time talking about that bird,
but that's worth it.
No, absolutely. Experience. We've got some have you ever questions here. Have you ever questions? I ask some of these to my students sometimes to practice. Yeah, they practice the present perfect tense.
Good, isn't it?
Yeah, and I've got some here. Here's a good one, Laura.
Go on.
Have you ever cheated on an exam?
Yes, deliberate, but not my fault. The teacher made me do it.
Yeah. Go on.
So I had my French exam. I got the highest mark because it was the French oral. So I went in, and what you had to do for your French oral is you had to pre-write an essay of like what you're going to say. So it'd be typical things. Like in English, it would be like, my name is Laura. I enjoy going to the cinema with my friends. Sometimes I just like a typical thing. And you had to write it down so that your teacher could check it and be like, oh, that's good. But then when you went to do the oral test, you couldn't take it with you. You had to memorise it. So
which is ridiculous because that's just a memory test.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It would be better if it was more of like a conversation,
Yeah.
but it wasn't. It was literally just stand up and talk French for 2 minutes, and obviously you had to remember it. So I kind of knew it. I was like, okay, we'll be fine. And the way they did the exam was they had.
Sorry to interrupt.
Oh.
If you went on a tangent and just spoke about other stuff that wasn't what you've written.
Oh, I'm sure you'd be fine.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
No.
Okay.
That's just for you and your teacher.
Okay.
Like, he's helping you out.
Carry on.
And so I went in and he said the way we're going to do it is you walk into the room. This is my French teacher. I'll be there. And I will give you your... you give me your planned speech on a piece of paper. I'll have it here just so I know what you're supposed to be doing, right? And then you say your speech and I will we're going to record the voice.
Yeah, we had like a really old-fashioned recorder thing.
And then send that tape off to the high-up examiners and then you get your exam back. So I walk in, I gave him my piece of paper and then he gave it back to me and said, just read it, but don't make it obvious that you're reading it. And I was like, all right. So I got to read my perfectly written, like, checked, grammar is correct, everything's perfect. I got to just read it, but I had to just put in a few E's in there. So it'd be like, je m'appelle Laura, j'ai 11 ans, but like it was all perfect.
Yeah, so you're like making it sound very natural.
Yeah, but
why did he do that? Because the
pressure on schools is that you need to, like, the teachers have to get good marks from their students, otherwise they'll have, people breathing down their necks.
Yeah.
So it's probably better for him just to go, look, I know this kid can speak French. I know she can. She's good. So I'm just going to, she deserves a good mark. I'm just going to make it easy for her. Have you ever cheated on an exam?
Have I? There was at university, do you remember like the voice classes we had to do? Voice classes.
Yeah,
so we had movement, acting and voice.
Yeah.
So there was like an accent class we had to do. And...
Oh, with all the phonetics?
Yeah, it was all the phonetic alphabet. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I hate that.
And there was... everyone was on a table. Yeah, we did like an exam, didn't we? Or a test.
Yeah, it was like an exam on the phonetic alphabet.
Yeah, it was weird. So we had all these... Everyone was on these desks. And I did not have a desk. I had this music stand. Because they ran out of right?
So you were taking your test on a stand?
Yeah. I was sat there, but I was on a music stand. It was weird, yeah.
Conducive for
it was weird.
Exam taking.
But we had we had like 2 hours before, or an hour before, to practice and kind of revise. And I realised that what I could do is I could write write all the answers, or write the phonetic alphabet, whatever it was, on the music stand and then rub it out.
Yeah.
But then, because it was written in pencil and then rubbed out, in the shining of the light, I could see it. Like James Bond.
That's really good.
So I did that. And I think I did that in my maths exam.
Yeah.
On the calculator exam. So I don't know if in other countries they do this, but in Britain we have 2 maths exams. There's a calculator exam and a non-calculator exam. The calculator exam is harder, but you have a calculator. And the classic...
I absolutely took the mick with that calculator one, by the way. The first couple of questions would be like 6 times 8. I'd still be doing it on the calculator.
Yeah, just to be sure. Yeah, just to be sure. And I did the same thing with that. So I wrote it all out. I wrote things out on my on the slidey, the cover of the calculator.
Yeah. The plastic cover that goes over the top.
But then I rubbed it all out. And then, of course, it would look very fishy if I slid it up and then looked. Obviously, that's so obvious. Yeah. So I just had it out in the open on the table, and nobody. And then I would just kind of try and catch the light.
Have your little formulas on there, like your cos and your sin,
tan. Oh,
I hated maths.
So yes, I have.
So you know what girls did in my school?
Yeah.
This girl, I won't mention her name because rude. She used to write things, write answers and stuff on her legs. And then she wore tights, but black tights. But if you pull black tights taut, you can see the skin. So she would sit there with her black tights on, with all the things written on her legs.
I did this.
And then, and then she would just pull it tight and just go it must have been a nightmare to find what you're looking for, because if you've written all this info, you're probably just there where should I put that thing?
On your other leg you got your history exam.
Yeah, and it must look so obvious that you just see these people going where's that? Yeah. But I never did that, but I was terrified of cheating. I was terrified when we took exams in school, and do you remember it was there was this a horror story told to us that if your phone goes off in an exam, they will they will void this exam, but they will also void all your exams that you're going to take.
I think that must be just a threat.
It is. Yeah, of course it is, because they can't do that, because it happened at my school and that didn't happen. But I remember, like, doing an exam and we had to put all our bags and our phones in the back. And I remember hearing my ringtone. It was a popular ringtone, so it was someone else's, but it was also my one.
What was it?
It was just one of the, like, the...
Crazy Frog or something.
Yeah, or like, what was that one? What was the old Nokia one? Something like that everyone had. And I was just saying it, and the feeling of my heart dropping to my feet when I heard that, because I just thought, it was so terrifying. I
remember my friend, because we were told that you only had to write the exams in either black pen or blue pen. Do you remember which one it was?
Black.
Black,
sure
yeah.
It was black.
And on like the first GCSE exam...
GCSE is like the big exams that you take in the UK when you're like 15, 16.
Yeah. And it was like the history one, and, did it, and then left the exam, and then my friend just in passing said, oh yeah, I didn't have a black pen, so I just did it in blue. And we all, obviously as a joke, because we all knew surely it will be okay, because the whole point was that they said, because they photocopy your exam, they don't actually send your exam, they photocopy it, and if you do it in blue pen, it doesn't come up. The
computer can't recognise it, yeah.
So we really wound him up about it, and we were like, we milked it for like a couple of days.
Yeah.
And he was so stressed. He was so stressed.
Okay.
But it's ridiculous that that they're making people stressed about.
Well, I don't like
silly
exams.
Things.
I think the exam system is awful. Let's do another one.
Well, yeah, we won't get into that. Okay, here's an interesting one. Have you ever eaten horse meat?
Maybe unintentionally, because there was that scandal.
Tesco gate.
It wasn't Tesco. We don't want to have a libel case. It wasn't Tesco. It was Findus.
Oh, yes.
Was it Findus?
Well, I don't
want to get a libel. But there was a scandal, and I will insert the name of the brand here, it was
something like 70% of their meat was horse meat.
It was sold
to save costs.
It was like lasagnas. Lasagnas in the UK, they got revealed there was horse meat. But I don't think I ever ate that brand, that stuff. So I don't think I have. But yeah, meat's a weird one, isn't it? Because what is the difference between eating a cow and horse? But something about eating a horse just feels bizarre.
Yeah,
I don't think I'd like to eat horse, and unless, because no one is walking around going, "Have you tried horse? Oh, so nice." If horse was good, we'd be.
I think it's because they're just useful for us.
That's true. We don't need to be killing them. We need them for other reasons.
Yeah,
that's true. But no, I think the meats that are tasty are already established.
Have you seen that thing where it's like, where would you draw the line? And there's like a
there.
Yeah, and it's like it's literally that. So there's like a chicken. There's like a pig,
and
a duck, a cow, a sheep,
and then a dog,
and then it goes dog, cat,
and it's like where do you draw the line? What you eat?
There.
About there.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Sorry to any vegetarians, but yeah, there is. Of course, I'm not going to eat a dog, but I'll happily eat a pig.
What about this, Laura?
Go on.
Have you ever swum in the ocean?
Yes, I have. I don't like it though. I really don't.
You don't like it? You had a good time. We went to Greece.
Yeah, I don't like the beach. I don't like the ocean, which is a very controversial topic because not controversial, but I talk to a lot of people every day who are from gorgeous countries like Brazil and Italy and Spain, and they say, "Oh yeah, I love to go to the beach," and I just hate the beach. I hate it. I think it's because it's UK beaches I don't like.
Oh yeah.
And I don't like sand, and I don't like salty water. And that's the fundamentals of the beach.
Don't like sand.
I don't like sand. Sand is so annoying.
It's coarse. It's dry.
Gets everywhere.
Gets everywhere.
I hate it so much. Because you try and have a lovely day, and then people try to make the best of it, and they go, "Oh, put your towel down," and then you sat down. Oh, it's a bit itchy there because there's sand. Try and get the sand off. Does anyone want some food? Yeah, I've got some food. But you eat the food, and you've got sand on your fingers, and then you can taste that you've got sand in your mouth because.
And then the sand is blowing in your face, and then it goes in your mouth.
And then I can taste the sand. And then your feet gets all sandy, so you can't put your shoes back on because you've got sandy feet. So you have to try to dry your feet and then very quickly put your shoe on so that you don't put
without putting your foot on the sand.
What a load of effort!
And then the ice. Anyone want any ice creams? So then the ice cream van is over there. So one person goes gunk, gunk, gunk over the sand.
Yeah, it's hard to
because
walk
it's hard to
on.
walk on. You get about 4 ice creams, and then you have to walk all the way back.
But then you've got your ice cream. It drips a little bit on your finger, so you want to wipe it. What have you got to wipe it with? This towel that's also got sand on it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to wipe it. Oh, now I've just got sandy ice cream on my hand. Where can I wash my hands? The sea. Oh, salty water. Lovely. I'd love to wash my hands in the dirty. Nothing about the beach is relaxing at all. It's not relaxing. When you're a kid, it's nice because you can make your sandcastle. As an adult, I fundamentally hate the beach.
Wow. I mean, yeah, it's a hot take.
And I don't like swimming in salty water because it gets in your eyes. So if I put my head in it and I wipe my eyes because you've got water in your eyes, then salt goes in your eyes and that's awful. And then your skin feels awful afterwards. It feels in your hair.
Well, yeah.
Awful. Give me a pool. An outdoor pool any day.
But do you not think, and I agree with you, but I'm just going to be the devil's advocate,
Go on.
that at the sea, or the beach, you feel more connected with nature. The swimming pool is just so detached,
Great.
so...
Yeah, detach me.
I don't know.
Detach me
but
away.
you wouldn't...
I can feel connected to nature in other ways. I love a lovely walk in the woods or grass. I love grass.
Grass,
I love
right, yeah.
grass. Of leaves, I love plants.
But you've never gone camping?
No.
No. Never. Well, there you go.
But
You're
the
not...
beach is just not my thing. I can swim in the sea. I would never choose it because UK beaches, the sea's always way too cold. It's never appealing.
The one in Greece was nice and clear. That was quite satisfying. But because it was clear, there were fish, loads of fish, beautiful to look at. I thought this is amazing.
But then you had to get in and swim with them.
And do you remember were you in the sea by this point, or was I? Because there was about 10, 15, 20 minutes where I was just trying to pluck up the courage to get in the sea. Because we'd stopped the boat and there was an island. And I really wanted the experience of, wow, yeah, I've swam and I'm on this Greek island. But, were you in the sea waiting for me? Surely
No, I
not.
made you go in first.
Yeah.
Because I knew you'd be ages and I didn't want to wait there treading water for 20 minutes while you play. Because you're scared of the sea.
I'm scared of the sea.
You don't like the sea. And we got a boat and we parked the boat, dropped your anchor down.
Parked.
But you weren't allowed to park the boat very near to the shore. So you had to park it quite
they
far away.
said like
of
something
rocks.
like 30 metres.
Yeah.
But your perception of distance is ridiculous.
Well,
so
I didn't
you
wanna
made
break the
us
rules.
go, no, but we were really far away.
Yeah.
We were really
We
far
were
away.
quite
And
far
I
away.
said, Laura, we can definitely get a bit closer. But you were like,
So we had
no.
to park it and then swim to the beach.
How
'cause
far do you reckon we swam?
I don't know distance, but I think I was swimming for about a minute and a half.
I think it was about 100 metres.
I don't know what that means.
Well, imagine you're going to run a 100 metres race. You're going to run... Imagine you're watching a race, a 100-metre race. It's like, imagine a running track. It's the foot... like
Is that the one Usain Bolt did?
Yes.
Oh, that's not far.
100 metres?
What are you on about?
That's about from here to that house. No, further than that.
It was about that distance.
It wasn't. It was
Either
further.
or,
It was further.
I thought, this will be fine. And I just swam. You spent the whole swim like this.
Because I'm not a good... Laura, I'm not a good swimmer. I'm scared of the sea. It was horrible.
Yeah. And then my favourite story is
Yeah.
when you got to the...
Did I go there? Did I reach there before you?
Yeah, I made you swim first.
Ah.
So I said, right, you
and
swim.
did you watch me the whole way?
I sort of got in about, after you'd been swimming for about 10 seconds, then I got in, and you swimmed all the way to the shore, and then what did you do when you...
Swimmed.
Swam? Sorry.
I swam all the way to the beach, and I crawled. I felt like I'd
You
been...
just swam the channel.
No, I felt like my plane had crashed into the sea.
Like Tom Hanks.
Yeah, and I was like honestly, I was
You
exhausted.
swam for like a minute.
And I was like on the rocks. Ugh. And I dragged myself slowly and it was painful onto the beach, and I lay there, and out of relief, I wet myself. Yeah, because I thought, well, I'm already wet. So, and then but then you could see the rocks. Like, the rocks around me were dry, and then I saw, like, a stream of water. So if you ever go to Greece, around Corfu, I've wet myself there.
Oh, that's so funny. I love that story. You just like, and just wee.
Yeah, and then we had to swim back. Oh.
Yeah, but I
horrible.
swam with you that time. I swam beside you and made sure I was like, it's okay, you're doing it.
Horrible. Should we do one
Let's
more?
do
Because we've been
one
talking
more.
for 30 minutes here, Laura.
Have we? Okay,
Yeah.
let's round up with one more.
Have you ever fainted?
No, and I really want to. I want to in a safe situation because I want to know what it feels like. I'm so curious.
I have
I
fainted.
know you have.
Yeah, and
Where did you faint?
For the purpose of the podcast, for the purpose of the podcast, I will repeat my story for you, Laura. So I was sixth form, so I'm maybe 17 years old, 18, 17, and my parents went to work about
Good on them.
about 8:30.
Yeah.
And I caught the bus at about 8:10 every day. And it was about 8:50. So, and I used, I was very quick at having a shower.
Yeah.
I was in the shower. Normal day. Had my breakfast. I felt absolutely normal. And then I just randomly, just in the shower, just felt really lightheaded. And I remember my legs going off the floor.
Giving way.
Yeah, giving way. And I don't remember hitting my head, but I must have hit my head. I must have done. It was like a walk-in shower, but my legs gave way and I landed on the floor. And then I just remember it felt like I was just asleep for a long time. And then I woke up and the water was still on me. The water was a bit cold.
Yeah.
And then I got up.
How long had you been
out
for?
Then I got out the shower.
Yeah.
The house was empty.
Everyone had left.
Everyone had gone. My sister had gone to... Yeah, she was in sixth form. No, I don't know where she was. College.
Oh, yeah.
My sister had gone to college. My parents had gone to work. They must have just thought I'd left and not said goodbye.
Yeah.
So then I was locked in the house. But I thought, okay, great. I'm kind of guilt-free. I've got a day off here. Not my fault. Funny story. But then at about 12 o'clock, I got a text from my driving teacher, my driving instructor, and I'd already missed a driving lesson already with this guy, and he was cross. And the deal we had was that he picked me up from school, and then we had a driving lesson, and then actually at the end of the driving lesson, I would end up back at home. And I texted him saying, I'm really, really sorry, but this happened and I'm kind of locked in my house. Well, I don't know if I said I'm locked in my house. I'm just at home or something. I'm really, really sorry. I'm really sorry. And he was not happy, and I can't remember exactly, but he said, I'm coming to your house.
Oh, wow.
And he'll be there in 30 minutes. And I thought, I panicked because I thought I can't miss another driving lesson.
Yeah.
And I was locked in my house. So what would you do? What would you do, Laura?
I would just reply again and say, I don't know what you want me to do. I can't come, sorry.
But I was worried that he was going to knock on my door and be like, hey, come out.
And I'd say, what do you want me to do? I'm locked in.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't want this situation. I didn't want... I'm scared of the sea and birds. I'm scared of lots of things. So what I did was I realised that the only window that I could jump out of and get out the house was on the second floor of the spare room window. And I thought, well, there's a bit of grass. I can,
I'll be alright.
It's the second floor of a house, so how high is that? That's about, I don't know.
I'm sure people can picture a second floor.
Yeah, 10 metres, I don't know. Anyway, and I jumped out of the window. And my legs really hurt.
I bet they did.
My legs were really shaking and really, really hurt. Then I had the driving lesson, and because my legs were weak, I was not doing very well, and he was getting cross with me regardless. And I was thinking, I've jumped out of a window to be in this class. Anyway,
I fainted this
we
morning.
had the class.
What a day.
We ended up back at my house, but of course then I was locked out of my house, and I just had to sit outside my house for about 3 hours waiting for my mum and dad to come home. And then the story I gave them was that I just had an early lesson, and my day finished early, and I didn't tell them the whole thing. So mum and dad, if you're listening to this, that's what happened. They won't be listening to this.
That's crazy. What does it feel like when you faint? Does it just feel like...
Oh yeah, so it just felt like genuinely, it just felt like I just went to sleep.
Wow. I do want to experience it once. I want to experience it when I'm right next to a mattress and I can just but I haven't. I've never fainted, so let's hope it's not today that I faint.
Well, there you go. Sorry about that long story.
No, it's alright. I enjoyed the long story. So, should we let's have some lunch. It's lunchtime, innit?
It is lunchtime. What are you going to have for lunch?
Oh, I'm going to have a salmon rice bowl. What?
It's just very fancy. It's very fancy.
It's nice.
Beans on toast for me.
Oh, yeah, beans on... Oh, and that's rounding this off. One of my other fears, baked beans.
Well, there you go.
So you keep that way.
The beans that I've got are not very nice. They were 17p. And I bought them about 4 months ago.
I hate beans so much. So enjoy your beans.
Thanks, enjoy your salmon.
Thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much.
See you later.
Yeah,
Bye.
well, I'll see you now. Bye.